Hello everyone and welcome to a Silent Hill F dive into what we know so far, including lore, theories, and general all-around discussion. So if I miss anything or new news pops up before this video is even out, please feel free to comment down below. And if you're just someone who enjoys Silent Hill and wants to throw out some hopes or theories of what Silent Hill F will hopefully offer in this next installment, don't be afraid to comment either, as I'd love to see them and I would love to talk more about what's to come. But without any more delays, let's talk about what we know so far. According to Konami, they had felt that the series had become overly westernized, and as such, the developers had moved away from the iconic and now legendary town in Maine of Silent Hill, and instead set this game in 1960s Japan in the fictional town of Ebisu-Gooka, as it follows Hanako Shimizu, a high school student who must navigate this town consumed by fog. The town of Ebisu-Gooka, much like its real-life counterpart of Centralia, Pennsylvania, both were a coal mining town. Though Centralia underwent a decline when the mine suffered from a long-lasting fire, Ebisu-Gooka's decline is completely unknown as of yet. Something I personally found interesting was that the town of Ebisu-Gooka are made up of the word Ebisu, which is the Japanese god of the fishermen and luck, and Gooka, which means hill or hilltop, perhaps trying to signify on how fishing is usually done in silence, and thus still somewhat standing for Silent Hill. Though I'm sure that's a bit of a stretch, I still find that a bit of an interesting fact. Moving on to some details we actually see in the trailer, Hanako talks to a friend, or at least fellow student, named Sakuko, and Hanako mentions she just wants someone to talk to before finding a spot to wait for Sakuko to come downstairs. She then suffers from a vision mentioning on how she is a traitor, the voice saying such being female, but more information is revealed a bit later on in the trailer. We see more scenes of the aftermath of some of the creatures that now plague the town, along with some students and possible friends of Hanako. This is also when they show us a new creature, very similar to Silent Hill 2's lying figures, or mannequins, based on their doll-like joints and unsettling walking patterns. In those next couple of shots, we see on how fast they can move and how high they can jump, along with some of these red vine-like growths, but we'll talk more about what those could be later on. Afterwards, the trailer shows off a scene with a hulking, bulbous monster that is made almost entirely of this red plant-like substance. We cut away to see what I can only assume is a death animation of these new doll-like enemies slicing into Hanako, and she wakes up in a building where a sobbing girl is calling out for her. Some shots are shown of fields with other female student bodies, with them wearing what looks to be blank, staring masks, reminiscent to possibly kabuki masks, but a lot less exaggerated or stylized. And these bodies are strung up to be made as scarecrows, and are shown to be the next enemy type in the trailer. All the while, the voice talks about how easy and great it must be to be Hanako, and how she has it all, and how the voice would do good to finally be rid of the burden that is presumably Hanako. That the voice doesn't want to be alone, and that they promised to be together forever. Eventually we see a scene where Hanako is wielding a naginata inside of a temple, approaching a crying figure that she calls out as Sakuko. Only this Sakuko has a hole through her body, which I have my theories on, and a descended gaping maw and undead rotting flesh, as she lets out a banshee-like scream, thus ending the trailer. There's a lot to unpack, but let's start with how Hanako, after having talked to the real or at least non-monstrous form of Sakuko, she's immediately hit with a vision that says, "You traitor." Though no actual details are mentioned on who says what to whom, it could be presumed that at this point in the trailer, Hanako is already in the Silent Hill version of her town, and Sakuko is long dead, or at least harmed by Hanako's actions, thus making Hanako feel she has betrayed Sakuko, or perhaps Sakuko having actually said this in the real world. The only reason I have this theory for myself is because of the final scene, where Hanako is holding a naginata and Sakuko has a hole in her chest, a hole that has presumably taken her heart out, thus potentially symbolizing the loss of love or the friendship that they once had. With Hanako being the one holding a weapon, it has a lot of strong symbolism of her being on the offense, and perhaps even the aggressor, as the one who caused the wrong, whereas Sakuko is curled up and crying. defenseless, and only really retaliates out of defense. The other theory is that Hanako has in fact just murdered or harmed Sakuko, and not just emotionally or mentally. Perhaps this isn't all a metaphor and just what actually happened. Hanako having killed Sakuko, thus Hanako marking herself as a traitor and bearing that guilt. She just can't outrun that, and thus goes to Silent Hill, as many of our other protagonists have also done. I tried to spend some time to find whether or not I could find any correlation to actual yokai and the creature designs that we've been seeing in the trailer as well. The closest thing I could come up to is the Hinagami, which is a doll, but it's more or less like a porcelain doll, less like a doll with joints and moving parts. There is also the Wara Ningyo, which is mostly made of straw. Again, nothing that really coincides with them having moving parts or being generally malicious. Though the Hinagami are known for being powerful, it could be potentially a version of the Hinagami that these doll-like creatures are appearing as. I'm not super familiar with yokai and other Japanese spirits and ghosts and the like, but overall, it seems that, as of right now, for me anyway, that these are all 100% unique designs with just perhaps more correlation more towards Silent Hill than actual Japanese culture and folklore. But of course, feel free to let me know down in the comments if I'm mistaken on that part and I just missed that detail. I would love to know more about whether or not there are actual correlations to the enemies of Silent Hill F and actual yokai. The only thing that I could find that even correlated closely in terms of a yokai for the big bulbous creature is the New-Peppo, I believe is the pronunciation. But that large creature is just a large, wrinkly face and body as one head blob. Overall, again, I couldn't find any correlation to actual yokai to this creature. Again, I'm not super familiar with, I'll reiterate once more just in case. So I would absolutely appreciate people who might have their own theories on what actual yokais these might trying to correlate to, or other Japanese spirits, or maybe just folklore or myth. I know some of the more really well-known ones, and I believe there's one about like a lady in red, and there is a lot of correlation with the color red in this trailer. So it is possible that they are trying to correlate the yokai more with the color and just the symbolism of the matter, but I couldn't actually find solid, concrete yokais to compare to. So again, I personally am believing that they are focusing the setting more around the Japanese theme, and the actual Silent Hill monsters are still one of a kind and mostly associated with Silent Hill. If that is the case, I feel like it does an amazing job of blending Eastern and Western together to create Silent Hill F, to make this beautiful combination rather than just focusing 100% entirely on Japanese myth and legend. I'm sure some people will find it actually a little irritating that it doesn't focus more on Japanese legend, but again, I could be wrong. Maybe it actually does and there is an actual yokai. But anyway, moving on. The other major detail I wanted to go over is the large amounts of red plant-like growths happening within the city, which I believe, based on how much it blows around like loose debris, it looks like it could be grass. And though it could be Japanese bloodgrass, I feel like it's most likely the petals of the red spider lily, or higanbana, also known as the corpse flower or death flower, which symbolizes death, the afterlife, and the fleeting nature of life, all of which coincide with the theory Hanako causing Sakuko's death, or at the very least, killing someone Sakuko held dear, perhaps even the symbolism of their now dead friendship. Unfortunately, that's all the info I have right now, but I can say I'm thoroughly looking forward to Silent Hill F's release on September 25th, and wouldn't mind delving deeper into the lore once more information comes to light. In the meantime, let me know your thoughts and theories, as I'd love to hear them. Let me know if I missed any details, and don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on future videos. Some videos being Let's Plays, some being these lore and theory videos that I will be posting hopefully once a week as of right now. And hopefully I see you all in the next video. See you then.